There's a certain kind of person who feels everything. Not casually, not occasionally, but constantly, deeply, with an intensity that most people never experience. They walk into a room and sense the tension before anyone speaks. They notice the slight tremble in a friend's voice. They carry the weight of conversations that happened days ago. And maybe that's why this story is really about you, and the parts of yourself you've been told are too much. You see, the psychology of deeply empathic people is not simply about sensitivity or emotion. It's about a fundamentally different way of experiencing the world. It's about brains that are wired to absorb, process, and respond to emotional information that others barely register. It's about hearts that beat in rhythm with the pain and joy of everyone around them, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. If you are deeply empathic, truly empathic, then chances are you've spent your whole life being told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. You've been told to toughen up, to not take things so personally, to just let things go. And every time you heard those words, a small part of you wondered if something was wrong with you. If maybe you were broken in some fundamental way that other people weren't. But here's what no one told you. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's not a weakness to be overcome or a problem to be fixed. It's a neurological difference, a cognitive gift, a form of intelligence that the world desperately needs, but rarely knows how to appreciate. Neuroscientists have discovered something remarkable about highly empathic people. Their brains literally work differently. Studies using functional MRI scans have shown that people with high empathy have more active mirror neuron systems. These are the neural networks that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing that same action. They're the biological basis of our ability to understand and share the feelings of others. But in deeply empathic people, this system doesn't just fire occasionally, it fires intensely, constantly, sometimes overwhelmingly. When you see someone in pain, your brain doesn't just recognize their pain intellectually. It experiences a version of that pain directly. When you witness joy, you don't just observe it from the outside. You feel it resonating through your own nervous system. This is why crowded places exhaust you. This is why conflict feels physically painful. This is why you can't just watch the news without carrying the weight of it for days. Your brain is processing emotional information at a level that most people never experience. You're not overreacting. You're simply reacting to more data than anyone around you realizes exists. Maybe you've always been this way. The child who cried when others were hurt. The teenager who absorbed the moods of everyone in the room. The adult who can sense a lie before it's spoken, who knows when someone is struggling even when they insist they're fine. You've spent your life navigating a world that produces more emotional input than you know what to do with. Psychologists have a term for this heightened emotional processing. They call it sensory processing sensitivity. Research by Dr. Elaine Aron and others has shown that approximately 15 to 20% of the population has this trait. These individuals, sometimes called highly sensitive people, have nervous systems that are more finely tuned to subtle stimuli. They process information more deeply. They notice nuances that others miss. But sensitivity alone doesn't capture the full picture of deep empathy. Empathy involves not just feeling intensely, but feeling specifically in response to other people's emotional states. It's the ability to step into someone else's experience so completely that their feelings become, temporarily, your own. There are different types of empathy, and deeply empathic people often excel at all of them. Cognitive empathy is the ability to understand what someone else is thinking or feeling from an intellectual perspective. Emotional empathy is actually sharing in those feelings, experiencing a resonance of another person's emotional state in your own body. And compassionate empathy goes further, combining understanding and feeling with a motivation to help. If you're reading this, you probably know what it's like to experience all three simultaneously. You understand the logic of someone's pain. You feel that pain echoing in your own chest. And you feel an almost irresistible pull to do something, anything, to make it better. This triple activation can be beautiful. It can also be exhausting. People who don't share this trait often can't understand why you can't just turn it off. They suggest solutions that sound simple to them. Just don't think about it. Just focus on yourself. Just stop caring so much. But they don't realize that for you, these aren't choices. They're as involuntary as breathing. You can no more stop absorbing emotional information than you can stop your heart from beating. And this is where the pain often begins. Not from the empathy itself, but from the world's response to it. From years of being told that your natural way of processing reality is somehow wrong. From the exhaustion of pretending to feel less than you do. From the loneliness of knowing that your experience of a simple conversation, a movie, a news story, is fundamentally different from everyone else's. Maybe you learned early to hide how much you feel. Maybe you developed a mask of casual detachment because showing your true emotional response made people uncomfortable. Maybe you've spent years apologizing for tears that came unbidden, for concerns that others found excessive, for a depth of caring that seemed to make people nervous. If that's you, I want you to know something important. You were never too much. The world was simply not equipped to receive what you were offering. Your sensitivity wasn't the problem. The problem was a culture that rewards emotional numbness and punishes emotional depth. Think about what we celebrate in modern society. Toughness, thick skin, the ability to shrug things off. We admire people who seem unaffected by criticism, unmoved by tragedy, able to compartmentalize their emotions and proceed with cold efficiency. We've built systems, workplaces, social norms that treat emotional sensitivity as a liability rather than an asset. But this is a profound misunderstanding of human psychology. The capacity for deep empathy isn't a bug in the human operating system. It's a feature. Evolutionary psychologists believe that empathy developed because it served crucial survival functions. Empathic individuals could better predict the behavior of others. They could form stronger social bonds. They could detect threats and opportunities that less sensitive individuals missed. In our ancestral environment, the deeply empathic members of a tribe served as its emotional intelligence. They were the ones who sensed when conflict was brewing before it erupted. They were the ones who could read the intentions of strangers. They were the ones who maintained the social fabric that held communities together. Their sensitivity wasn't a weakness. It was a specialized strength that the group depended on. And even today, in our complex modern world, this capacity remains invaluable. Research has shown that empathic individuals tend to be better leaders, better partners, better friends. They build deeper relationships. They create environments where others feel safe and understood. They notice when someone is struggling and intervene before crisis hits. The problem isn't that there's something wrong with empathic people. The problem is that we've created a world that often doesn't know how to value what they offer. A world that mistakes emotional depth for emotional instability. A world that confuses sensitivity with fragility. But sensitivity and fragility are not the same thing. In fact, many highly empathic people are remarkably resilient. They've had to be. They've spent their lives navigating a world that constantly overwhelms their nervous system, and they've developed sophisticated coping mechanisms to survive. They've learned to manage emotional loads that would devastate less sensitive individuals. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It describes the way that some people don't just recover from difficult experiences, but actually grow stronger through them. Researchers have found that empathic individuals often show higher levels of post-traumatic growth. Their deep processing of emotional experiences, while painful, also leads to greater insight, wisdom, and psychological development. This makes sense when you think about it. If you feel everything deeply, you also understand everything deeply. Your pain teaches you. Your emotional experiences become sources of wisdom. You develop an intuitive understanding of human nature that can't be learned from books. You accumulate a kind of emotional knowledge that only comes from truly engaging with the full spectrum of human feeling. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're someone who has been shaped by everything you've felt. Someone who carries insights that came at a high emotional cost. Someone whose depth of understanding was forged in the fire of deep feeling. Your sensitivity hasn't just made you more vulnerable, it's made you wiser. But wisdom doesn't always protect you from pain. And one of the greatest challenges of being deeply empathic is the phenomenon that psychologists call emotional contagion. This is the tendency to automatically absorb and mirror the emotional states of others. For most people, this happens to a moderate degree. For deeply empathic individuals, it can be intense and sometimes overwhelming. You know this experience. You walk into a room where someone is anxious, and suddenly you're anxious too, even if you can't identify why. A friend tells you about their problems, and hours later, you're still carrying the weight of their troubles as if they were your own. You watch a sad movie, and the feelings linger for days. You read about tragedy in the news, and it affects you physically, disrupting your sleep, your appetite, your ability to focus. This isn't imagination or exaggeration. Studies have shown that emotional contagion has real physiological effects. When highly empathic people witness others in distress, their cortisol levels rise, their heart rates change. Their bodies respond as if they themselves are experiencing the threat or pain. The boundary between self and other becomes permeable in a way that most people don't experience. This permeability is both your greatest gift and your greatest challenge. It's what allows you to connect with others at a depth that most people never achieve. It's what makes you the person that others trust with their secrets, their pain, their vulnerability. But it's also what leaves you depleted, overwhelmed, sometimes unable to distinguish your own feelings from the feelings you've absorbed from others. Have you ever felt emotions that seem to come from nowhere? Sudden sadness without cause, unexpected anxiety in apparently calm situations, a heaviness that descended after time with certain people. These orphan emotions, as some psychologists call them, may not have originated with you at all. They may be traces of what you unconsciously absorbed from your environment. Learning to recognize this pattern is crucial for empathic people. Learning to ask, is this feeling mine, or did I pick it up from somewhere else? This simple question can be the beginning of reclaiming your emotional autonomy. Not shutting down your empathy, but developing the ability to feel deeply while maintaining a sense of where you end and others begin. This is not about building walls. It's about building something more like a semi-permeable membrane, something that allows connection and understanding while still protecting your core. Something that lets you feel with others without losing yourself in their experience. Therapists who work with highly empathic people often focus on this skill. They help clients develop what's sometimes called differentiated empathy, the ability to understand and care about others' feelings while maintaining clear awareness that those feelings belong to someone else. This doesn't diminish the empathy, it simply makes it sustainable. Because unsustainable empathy helps no one. If you absorb so much pain that you become incapacitated, you can't be present for the people who need you. If you exhaust yourself by feeling everything at maximum intensity, you have nothing left to give. Learning to modulate your empathic response isn't selfish. It's what allows you to keep showing up for others over the long term. This is one of the paradoxes of deep empathy. The same trait that makes you care so much about others often makes you neglect yourself. You're so attuned to everyone else's needs that your own needs become background noise. You're so focused on making others comfortable that you forget to check if you're comfortable. You give and give until there's nothing left, and then you wonder why you feel so empty. If this sounds familiar, I want you to hear something. Your needs matter too. Your comfort matters too. Your emotional well-being is not less important than everyone else's. The empathy you extend so freely to others, you deserve to receive that same empathy from yourself. Self-compassion can be particularly challenging for empathic people. You might find it easy to forgive others, but impossible to forgive yourself. You might extend endless patience to friends, but have none for your own struggles. You might understand perfectly why someone else feels the way they do, while being ruthlessly critical of your own emotions. Research by Dr. Kristen Neff and others has shown that self-compassion is crucial for psychological well-being. And for empathic people, developing self-compassion often means learning to turn your gift inward. Learning to treat yourself with the same understanding you would offer a friend. Learning to recognize that your own pain deserves the same tender attention you give to others' pain. Another challenge that deeply empathic people face is the tendency toward what psychologists call compassion fatigue. This is a state of emotional exhaustion that comes from extended exposure to others' suffering. It's particularly common in helping professions, but it can affect anyone who feels deeply and cares intensely about others' well-being. Compassion fatigue isn't a sign of weakness or failed empathy. It's a natural consequence of caring in a world that produces endless opportunities to care. There's always more suffering to witness, more problems to solve, more people who need help. For someone who feels all of it intensely, this can become unsustainable. The symptoms of compassion fatigue can look like depression, emotional numbness, withdrawal from relationships, difficulty feeling hope or optimism, a sense that nothing you do matters. But unlike clinical depression, compassion fatigue has a specific cause and specific solutions. It requires not medication or therapy in the traditional sense, but rather a recalibration of how you engage with suffering. This might mean setting limits on exposure to upsetting content. It might mean creating rituals for emotional processing and release. It might mean finding ways to contribute that don't require absorbing others' pain directly. It might mean accepting that you cannot feel everything, solve everything, or help everyone, and that this limitation doesn't make you a failure. There's wisdom in the airline safety instruction to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. For deeply empathic people, this isn't just practical advice, it's a survival strategy. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot absorb others' pain when you're already saturated. You cannot be the emotional anchor for everyone in your life if you have no stable ground of your own. This requires what might feel like a radical act for an empathic person. Prioritizing your own needs, setting boundaries, saying no, taking time and space for recovery, protecting your energy as if it were the precious and finite resource that it is. Boundaries are often difficult for empathic people. You feel others' disappointment when you say no. You sense their hurt when you pull back. You absorb the discomfort of setting limits, even when those limits are necessary and healthy. But learning to set boundaries anyway, despite the emotional cost, is essential for sustainable empathy. And here's something important to understand. Healthy boundaries aren't barriers to connection. They're what make genuine connection possible. When you're depleted and overwhelmed, you can't truly be present with others. When you're protecting your well-being, you have more to offer. Boundaries don't diminish your empathy, They allow it to flourish. Let's talk about relationships. Deeply empathic people often form incredibly meaningful connections, but they also face unique challenges in their relationships. Their sensitivity means they pick up on issues that others miss. They sense distance before it's acknowledged. They feel the unspoken tensions that lurk beneath surface harmony. This can be both a gift and a burden. On one hand, empathic people can address problems early before they fester. They can create spaces where partners and friends feel truly seen and understood. They can offer a quality of attention that most people rarely experience. On the other hand, they may struggle with partners who aren't equally attuned. They may feel lonely in relationships where their emotional depth isn't matched or appreciated. One common pattern is the empathic person who ends up in relationships with more emotionally distant partners. This can happen because empathic individuals are often drawn to people who need them, people whose emotional wounds call out for the kind of deep understanding that empaths provide. But these relationships can become imbalanced, with the empath giving endlessly while receiving little emotional nourishment in return. If you recognize this pattern, know that you deserve reciprocity. You deserve relationships where your emotional needs matter as much as your partner's. You deserve to be with someone who can meet you in the depths, not just benefit from your ability to go there. Your capacity for deep connection is a gift that should be met with equal presence, not just received passively. Another relationship challenge for empathic people is the difficulty of hiding. In most social situations, people can put on a pleasant face and keep their struggles private. But you sense what lies beneath. You feel the anxiety behind the smile. You detect the sadness beneath the cheerful greeting. This means you're often responding to reality rather than performance, which can be disorienting when others are trying to maintain a facade. Some people find this unsettling. They're not used to being truly seen, and your perception can feel intrusive even when you haven't said a word. You might have experienced this, the way some people seem uncomfortable around you without knowing why, the way your presence seems to strip away the masks that people wear. But for others, this quality is exactly what they need. For people who are tired of performing, tired of keeping up appearances, tired of the exhausting game of social pretense, your ability to see them can be a profound relief. These are your people. The ones who don't want to hide. The ones who are ready to be real. The ones who recognize in your perception not intrusion, but invitation. Finding these people, cultivating relationships with them, is one of the most important things an empathic person can do. Surrounding yourself with people who appreciate rather than fear your sensitivity. Building a community where emotional depth is valued rather than pathologized. Creating spaces where you don't have to dim your light to make others comfortable. This brings us to something crucial, the loneliness that often accompanies deep empathy. Not loneliness from lack of social contact, but loneliness from lack of true understanding. You might be surrounded by people and still feel fundamentally alone. You might have many friends and still feel that no one truly gets you. This is the loneliness of the outlier, the person whose experience is different enough from the norm that it becomes hard to share. If you've felt this loneliness, I want you to know that it's not a reflection of your worth or your ability to connect. It's a natural consequence of having a nervous system that processes information differently. It's the cost of perception that most people don't share. And it can be eased, though perhaps never fully eliminated, by finding others who understand. The internet age has made this somewhat easier. There are communities, forums, groups where highly sensitive and empathic people gather, where you can talk about experiences that would make others roll their eyes and find nodding recognition instead, where your intensity is welcomed rather than treated as a problem to be solved. These spaces can be profoundly healing for people who have spent their lives feeling like they don't quite fit. Let me tell you about the strengths that come with deep empathy. Because for all the challenges, there are profound gifts. Gifts that the world needs, even if it doesn't always know how to acknowledge them. Deeply empathic people are often exceptional listeners. Not the kind of listeners who are just waiting for their turn to talk, but truly present, deeply attentive listeners who make others feel genuinely heard. This is a rare and valuable skill. In a world where everyone is distracted, where attention is fragmented, where people often feel invisible in their own lives, your ability to truly listen is a form of healing.
Empathic people are often highly intuitive. Your sensitivity to emotional data gives you access to information that others miss. You can read situations quickly and accurately. You can sense opportunities and dangers that aren't visible on the surface. This intuition, when trusted and developed, becomes a powerful tool for navigating life. Empathic people often have a strong sense of justice. Your ability to feel others' pain makes inequality and unfairness viscerally intolerable. Many social movements have been driven by empathic individuals who simply could not accept suffering that others were able to ignore. Your sensitivity isn't just personal, it has the potential to be a force for change in the world. Empathic people are often creative. The same neural wiring that makes you feel deeply also makes you perceive richly. You notice textures, colors, sounds that others gloss over. You experience the world in high definition while others are watching in standard resolution. This perceptual richness often translates into creative expression, art that captures subtleties that others feel but can't articulate. Empathic people are often natural healers, whether formally in helping professions or informally in their personal lives. Your ability to understand and share others' feelings makes you a safe harbor for people in pain. You've probably been the person others come to when they're struggling, the one who seems to know what to say, the one whose presence itself is somehow comforting. These aren't small things. These are essential human capacities that many people lack. In a world that often feels cold, disconnected, and impersonal, your ability to bring warmth, connection, and deep understanding is genuinely precious. Your empathy isn't a liability, it's a contribution to every life you touch. So how do you live well as a deeply empathic person? How do you honor your gift without being destroyed by it? How do you stay open to feeling without drowning in feeling? First, understand that what you have is genuinely different, not deficient. Your nervous system processes information differently from the majority. This isn't something to fix, it's something to understand and work with. Stop measuring yourself against people who don't share your trait. Their way of experiencing the world isn't better or more correct, it's just different. Second, develop practices for processing and releasing absorbed emotions. This might look like journaling, where you can externalize what you've internalized. It might look like movement, allowing your body to discharge emotional energy that's become stuck. It might look like time in nature, where you can ground yourself in something larger than human drama. It might look like creative expression, transforming feeling into form. Third, create environments that support rather than drain you. This might mean being intentional about your physical space, reducing sensory overwhelm, creating pockets of calm. It might mean curating your information diet, limiting exposure to content that depletes you. It might mean choosing relationships that nourish rather than drain, surrounding yourself with people who appreciate your depth. Fourth, practice the distinction between empathy and responsibility. You can feel others' pain without being obligated to fix it. You can understand others' situations without being required to solve them. Your awareness doesn't automatically create duty. Learning to witness suffering without immediately trying to rescue can protect you from the exhaustion of treating every feeling as a call to action. Fifth, give yourself permission to not engage. Not every situation requires your full empathic presence. Not every person needs you to feel their feelings with them.
Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is maintain a degree of distance, for your sake and for theirs. Selective engagement isn't abandonment, it's sustainable care. Sixth, recognize the value of what you offer. Stop apologizing for your sensitivity. Stop treating your depth as a problem. Stop trying to be someone you're not. The world needs what you bring. Your ability to feel, to understand, to connect. These are not weaknesses to be overcome. They are strengths to be channeled. I want to speak directly to you now, to the person who has always felt too much, who has been told they're too sensitive, too emotional, too intense, who has wondered if something is wrong with them because they can't seem to just let things go like everyone else. Nothing is wrong with you. You are wired for depth in a world that often operates on the surface. You are built for connection in a culture that often rewards disconnection. You feel everything because your nervous system is designed to feel everything. This is not a disorder, it is a different order. The pain you've experienced, the exhaustion, the overwhelm, these are real. They are the costs of your trait, and they deserve acknowledgement. But they are not the whole story. The other side of that pain is a capacity for joy that most people never experience, a depth of connection that others can only imagine, an awareness of life's beauty and tragedy that gives existence meaning. You have probably saved lives without knowing it. Your presence, your listening, your simple willingness to feel with someone in their darkest moment has probably made the difference between despair and hope for people you may never know you helped. The ripples of your empathy extend further than you can see. The world is hard for sensitive people. This is true. But the world also needs sensitive people. It needs those who feel injustice viscerally and can't ignore it. It needs those who sense the unspoken pain in a room and respond with care. It needs those who remember that beneath all our armor and pretense, we are vulnerable creatures who need to be understood. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. The very thing that exhausts you is also what makes you irreplaceable. Your challenge is not to become less than you are, but to learn to be fully what you are without burning out. To feel deeply while also protecting your depths. To stay open while also maintaining your center. This is not easy work. It is the work of a lifetime. But you are already doing it. Every day that you show up in a world that often doesn't understand you, every time you choose connection despite the cost, every moment you allow yourself to feel when it would be easier to shut down, you are doing the work. You are learning to carry your gift without being crushed by it. And if no one has told you this, let me be the first. Your sensitivity is not a burden you have to overcome. It is not an obstacle to a good life. It is the very thing that makes your life rich and meaningful. It is what allows you to experience the full spectrum of what it means to be human. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're not too much. You are simply tuned to a frequency that most people can't hear. And that frequency carries information that the world desperately needs. Your way of loving is enough. Your way of feeling is enough. Your way of being is enough. The psychology of deeply empathic people is not a study of pathology. It is a study of possibility. It is an exploration of what it means to be fully human in a world that often encourages us to be less. It is a reminder that sensitivity is not weakness, that feeling deeply is not failing, that the parts of you that seem like too much are exactly what others need. Perhaps you've wondered if you should try to become less empathic, if life would be easier if you could just feel less, care less, absorb less. And maybe it would be easier in some ways, but it would also be emptier. The same sensitivity that brings you pain also brings you beauty. The same openness that exhausts you also fills you with wonder. The same depth that overwhelms you also makes life rich and textured and meaningful. Think about the moments of profound connection you've experienced, the times when you truly understood someone and they knew it, the conversations that went beyond surface and touched something real, the relationships where you were fully seen and fully accepted. These moments are possible precisely because of your empathy. They are the reward for all the difficulty. Think about the art that has moved you, the music that has transported you, the stories that have changed how you see the world. You experience these things more intensely than most people. You're not just consuming culture, you're being transformed by it. That capacity for transformation is your empathy at work, letting external experiences become internal realities. Think about nature, the way a sunset can feel like a religious experience, the way a forest can feel like coming home, the way the ocean can fill you with something too big to name. These aren't just pretty views for you, they're encounters with something sacred. Your sensitivity allows you to feel the aliveness of the world in a way that others only glimpse occasionally. And think about love, real love, the kind where you know someone down to their bones, where you feel their joy and their pain as if it were your own, where the boundary between you dissolves, not through loss of self, but through expansion of self. This kind of love is possible for you in ways it isn't for everyone. Your empathy is what makes you capable of loving this deeply. Yes, it hurts more when love goes wrong. Yes, you feel loss more acutely and recover more slowly. Yes, you risk more because you give more. But would you really trade the depth of your loving for the protection of feeling less? Would you give up the highs to avoid the lows? Most empathic people, when they really consider it, choose the intensity, because the alternative, a muted life of managed feelings, doesn't feel like living at all. There's something else that happens as empathic people mature. They begin to recognize their sensitivity not just as a trait, but as a kind of calling. They realize that their gift positions them to do certain kinds of work that others can't do as well. Healing work, creative work, justice work, work that requires seeing what's invisible and feeling what's unspoken. Many empathic people find their way into helping professions, not by accident, but by something like destiny. They become therapists, counselors, nurses, teachers, coaches, artists, writers. They find ways to use their sensitivity in service of something larger than themselves, and in doing so, they discover that what felt like a curse in childhood can become a blessing in adulthood. But you don't have to be in a formal helping role to use your empathy meaningfully. You can be the friend who really listens, the family member who holds space, the stranger who notices someone struggling and offers a moment of kindness. Every interaction is an opportunity to bring your gift into the world. Every day offers chances to be the presence that someone desperately needs. And maybe that's the final truth about empathic people. You're not just people who feel a lot. You're people who bring feeling to a world that has often forgotten how. You're reminders that beneath the busyness and the noise, there's a human being who needs to be seen. You're proof that paying attention to each other still matters, that taking time to truly understand is not weakness, but love. So feel everything, feel it fully, and know that in your feeling, you are not alone. There are others like you, scattered across the world, carrying the same gift and the same burden. They understand. And together, one feeling heart at a time, you are making the world a little more human. I want to leave you with this. The next time you feel overwhelmed by emotion, The next time you wonder why you can't just be like everyone else. The next time you wish you could turn down the volume on your feelings. Remember what that sensitivity makes possible. Remember the connections, the insights, the beauty, the depth. Remember that what exhausts you also enriches you. Remember that your way of experiencing the world, while harder, is also richer. And remember that you're not alone. Somewhere right now, someone else is feeling everything too. Someone else is wondering if they're too much. Someone else is learning to carry the same gift you carry. They're part of your tribe, even if you've never met. And in some mysterious way, your sensitivity connects you to them across all the distances. You're not broken. You're wired for depth. You're built for connection. You're designed to feel the world in all its painful, beautiful intensity. And that is not a flaw to be fixed. It is a gift to be honored. The psychology of deeply empathic people teaches us this, that sensitivity is not weakness, that feeling deeply is not failing, that the capacity for empathy is one of the highest expressions of human consciousness. You carry that capacity, you embody it, and the world is better because you do.